voters and said, indeed, that's a gay issue. But it's never been a gay issue.
It's certainly not a gay issue in Africa.
Well, you can say that again. What we're talking about here is that recruitment for the hepatitis B vaccine. Most people, Mike, are unaware that 1,086 promiscuous white homosexuals received that experimental hepatitis B vaccine. All 1,086 died from AIDS. The program was administered by a gentleman by the name of Dr. Szmuness. Have you ever heard that name before?
Not before tonight, no.
Szmuness, S-C-M-U-N-E-S-S. Szmuness was a Polish immigrant to the United States back in the late 1960s. But it was strange. He had the potential to defect from communist Poland, but nonetheless he was allowed to leave the country with his wife and children.
Sound familiar? Yeah. I'm thinking of the Bin Laden gang on 9/12. That's all.
Well, we have a similarity with that. But let me just go forward since we mentioned the New York Blood Center. Mm-hmm. They brought Dr. Szmuness into the United States, and in the quickest time ever, he was made in charge of the New York Blood Center, and he indeed ran the recruitment of the homosexuals to give them AIDS. It was mixed in the hepatitis B vaccine, and it was batch number 751. Let's do a check right now. If batch number 751 of the most dome experimental hepatitis B virus is clear of HIV, it would show it today, but they cannot. We know that 1971 flowchart document that you mentioned, and it's available on my website.
That's right.
At boydgraves.com/flowchart. Michael, over 4 million people have that blueprint document of this federal virus program. It is only a matter of time before another 4 million and another 4 million. It is one of the greatest document finds in the history of the world because it shows the design, it shows the purpose and the intent of the United States to make a contagious cancer that selectively kills. There's just simply no question. It cannot be refuted in any way. What we now have, Mike, is absolute evidence. And the American people, particularly those afflicted by this synthetic agent, are entitled to an immediate apology. There's just no doubt about it. With respect to this issue of AIDS reparations, it has to come to fore. An oral swab test for Vista. If I test positive via an oral swab test for Vista, I'm entitled to reparations. There's no way that I should have an Icelandic sheep disease sequences in my body.
That's
correct?
Right. That's right. An Icelandic sheep sequence in your body should not exist, nor anybody else's.
The Vista, the oral swab test for Vista. If you test positive through the oral swab test for Vista, you are entitled to an apology and reparations. How else do you have Icelandic sheep cells in your blood? Well, the monkey bit the African, and the African was with the sheep, and the...
Yeah. Well, this is one of the main questions that we continue to pose to everyone, and one of those main questions is, when did Visna cross species?
Absolutely. And you see the quagmire for the government.
Please explain to the listeners why that's significant.
Yeah, the reason that the government is so silent is because it states in 1971, Visna had not yet been associated with human disease. By July 18, 1983, it is the AIDS Task Force meeting in 1983, they learned that Visna has evolved from Visna. I mean, that HIV has evolved from Visna.
Right.
So
right. So, in other words, the monkey story was already thrown out by the professionals.
Oh, absolutely. Hook, line, and sinker, and sold and bought. It's the greatest propaganda venue in the history of this country, because the Visna sequences, 28% of the sequences of HIV are from an Icelandic sheep disease strain, KS1514. That strain originated in 1932. So if Visna has not yet been associated with human disease in 1971, how did the 1932 strain of Visna appear in the sequences of HIV?
Mm-hmm. Right, it's the whole recombination idea.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One that has been going on for over 100 years.
Over 100 years. Okay.
Yeah, incredible. Absolutely incredible. But you see, people are so comatose because they are laying in the poppy fields of AIDS. They've been warned and instructed, pay no attention to the black man and the flowchart. Pay no attention to the black man and the flowchart.
All right. The hepatitis B vaccine program was the way of introducing HIV into the North American population via the gay population of New York City and then eventually San Francisco?
Well, yes, but the point was that when the world leaders went to the 1974 World Population Conference in Bucharest, Romania, the United States introduced NSSM 200. NSSM 200.
NSSM 200, okay.
NSSM 200 is a document written by Henry Kissinger which addresses the issue of global population and its reduction, even to the percentages of birth rate and death rates. The African leaders balked at the inception of NSSM 200 because they balked because they wanted the United States to do to white people what they were about to do to Africa. But you see, the United States outsmarted the puppet dictators of Africa at that time because they chose white homosexuals, albeit they were white people, but they were homosexuals. However, when the African puppet dictators looked across the Atlantic, they saw white people, albeit homosexuals, but they saw white people dying of the same thing. And that satisfied the terms of NSSM 200.
Let me ask you about the targeting of a particular genome or a particular race indicator. You and I know that AIDS actually does that. There's a particular identifier that it goes after.
There's a team.
Please explain the details of that.
Yeah. Anyone who is listening to this program tonight must understand that African Americans are 12% of our population, correct?
In the United States, yes.
Yes, African Americans. Yet, African Americans are 50% of the AIDS cases, correct?
At least, yeah.
How can 12 be 50? Does anyone ask? No one at the CDC provides an answer? No one in the HIV AIDS policy decision-making processes of the United States? No answer. 12 cannot be 50. You're hiding something. What they are hiding is that HIV has been designed to seek out a gene marker, the docking site, the entry point. It's the CCR5 delta 32 positive gene. All people of color.
CCR5 delta 32?
Positive.
Okay.
Gene. All people of color are CCR5 delta 32 positive. It is the docking site where the envelope protein of HIV comes on board the human genome. Many white people don't have the positive gene and cannot get HIV under any circumstances, and it's reflected. It's reflected. 12 to be 50 means that something is going on behind the curtain of AIDS.
So all colored people have that particular marker, and certainly not all European white people do.
Well, you know, let's get into this, because it's a derivative of the bubonic plague. Like in HIV, we're in trouble now.
Yeah, there was an article that we read about a couple weeks ago about that. Yeah.
That's where the gene deletion for white people of Northern Europe came from. What's the bubonic plague? Now, I'm not going to go too far on this, but the bubonic plague had something to do with rats, correct?
Yeah, it was considered to be spread by rats, yeah.
Yeah, well, on the cover of the 15 progress report of the specialized program is a big rat.
Yeah. Again, I would direct people to go to the front page of my website, and if you scroll down there beneath the picture of Dr. Graves, you will see a number of links. The first one says get the blueprint for HIV AIDS. That's the flowchart there. You can download it. The next one says progress report number 15, 1978. If you open that up, it's a PDF, and you'll require a password in order to get at it because, we don't want people being able to doctor it. But at any rate, the password is phase 5, 1978. You'll see all this information right on the front page of my website. And the first page of that progress report is the cover. And, of course, you'll see exactly what Dr. Graves is talking about. There is a weird symbolic representation of disease moving to and from rats to humans and into little critters, and it's sort of a creepy image, but you can see it right there, and it's on the cover of. It's on
every one.
Yeah, so it's on every one of these progress reports.
Yeah, and what it's saying there is that in the sequences of HIV are rat cells. How do you find them? It's marine mammary tumor virus, MMTV, and HIV. Put it in. Sooner or later, you're going to get the picture that HIV is a mosaic of spliced and sliced DNA sequences of humans and animals in which to make this awful, awful, wasting illness. In essence, it is the pride of the eugenics movement that they have made something for the black man and the black woman that allows them to copulate themselves into extinction.
We have about 5 minutes before we have to take a break. I want you to talk a little bit, if you would, about eugenics in general.
Well, it seems to be an ugly principle. Again, people can go to Google and put in eugenics and kind of catch up with what we're talking about, that there has been a mindset that permeated the early part of the 20th century to the standpoint that pushing white birth order over others, particular blacks birth order, white birth good, black birth bad. That mentality has led to a twisted mindset in science and medicine and has led us to the doorstep of the brink of elimination of the black race, and it is unfortunate.
Eugenics has been something that the U.S. government has been interested in for a long, long time, above board, and certainly was involved with it before the whole Nazi business and all that stuff got started.
Well, yeah, there's several articles that Adolf Hitler cut his teeth on the California eugenics program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's truth in that. You see, what we have here in the United States is an anomaly of a society where when you relook at slavery, you have to scratch your head. Because if the colonizing white people were too lazy to pick their own cotton, they could have gone to Mexico to get slaves, correct?
Sure.
Could have put a railroad line down. Most of them wouldn't have died in transit. They'd have as many people as they wanted to pick their cotton, correct?
Seems reasonable.
At a whole cheaper price. A railroad line down in Mexico as opposed to boats going back and forth across the Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
So why did they go across the Atlantic?
What's your position? What do you think?
Well, the position is this, that indeed, they could have gotten others to pick their cotton. They didn't have to go get black people. They got black people to experiment on them. Our country is tilted. The playing field is tilted. Blacks were not allowed to immigrate to the United States while white people were. So we were cut off at the door and brought in through the fucking basement, through the basement. Blacks were not immigrating to the United States in reasonable fashion like white people were. So the field is tilted. And then the indignation, of slavery. Yet, at the same time, Mike, they were discerning the difference between white people and black people biologically, and now they have acted on it.
Yeah, I mean, with what we know now, it's pretty interesting when I think back to around, Civil War days, 1860s. That doesn't sound so long ago now, because I realized that they were doing things much earlier than I had ever imagined with regard to molecular biology, basically.
Absolutely. And again, referencing Dr. Robert Strecker, who back in 1986 was the first doctor to go online saying that HIV was man-made, that all virology appears to be man-made. And there's a reason, to make that statement. When we see what has happened with the mycoplasma, those little squirrely figures on the cover of the progress reports
right.
you were mentioning. It is at the noon hour, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And there are three little things there, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And each of those three, be careful here, each of those three have 6 sides. 666.
Mm.
Here you have at the noon hour of the schematic for the federal program that seeks to decrease the black population. The acronym 666 as a part of the schematic of the program.